I want to welcome everyone. My name is Pran Kurup. I'm going to be the host and moderator for our Google Hangout. This is the first of many Google Hangouts that we have planned this weekend. And like we did on many of the earlier weekends, we have several Google Hangouts planned this week as well. And this is the first of these. So we have three participants in our panel today. The two of them are already on board. The third one will be joining us any minute. For the first half, we have Pankaj Gupta, who has been making time from his busy schedule to be with us almost every weekend, so he can answer questions from volunteers and address any issues that might come up. And as you know, recently we had elections in a number of constituencies across the country, so he's going to give us a quick update first from Pankaj Gupta. And then we have two Loksabha candidates, Kiran Kumar Vissa, who's the candidate from Kurnool constituency in Andhra Pradesh, is joining us. I want to welcome everyone. And I'm going to be the host and moderator sorry for that. I had a small interrupt here. Many Google Hangouts that we have planned this weekend, and like on many of the early. Sorry about that. And we also have Medha Patkar, who's going to be joining us briefly as well. So without any further ado, let me bring in Pankaj so he can give us a quick update. I know many of you have submitted a number of questions during the through using the form. So if you could, I'll go through those questions as and when the individual candidates have been through their updates. But let me start right away by first handing over the floor to Pankaj, because he has another commitment and will be giving us a quick update before he can head out. So for the volunteers at Medha ji's end, I have a quick request. If you could quickly put your phones on mute, the audio line on mute, that would be great, while Pankaj is speaking, so that it will be clear.
All mobile phones.
Good morning, everybody. Pankaj this side. And it is nice to get this chance to talk to you every week and be able to understand what are your problems, what are your issues. And perhaps in this series, this is the third or fourth week which we are talking again. So instead of repeating what we have already talked about in past few weeks.
Me? Sorry, I missed it.
Just Pankaj, could you hold for a moment?
Yeah.
Medha ji, can you have someone on your team mute your phone there? The audio?
Pardon me?
From your side, on the computer at the top, there is a mute sign. So if you could mute the audio there, microphone audio at the top of it.
Mute the audio. Sorry. I'm not used to computers, so I'm dependent on someone else.
No, we understand, yeah. So, okay, perfect. Thank you. Back to Pankaj. Pankaj, go ahead.
Okay. So, it was good to see that first three phases have been done. We had almost 85 candidates in first three phases, which ended on 10th. Today we would be going in Goa. 12th is Goa, so we are fighting both the seats in Goa today. Goa team is very upbeat about their position, so we are hoping for a good result over there as well. And now a lot of requests are coming from our volunteers that where we should go now. A lot of people want to go to Banaras, a lot of them want to go to Amethi. Few people are requesting to go to other constituencies as well. And on the other hand, today I am in Chhattisgarh. I went to two of the constituencies in Chhattisgarh, and I see that there are a lot of requirements from the candidates to call our star campaigners. Medha ji is one of them, sitting right across us. A lot of people are asking for her to come in and join. But as I understand, her election date is still some time away. So maybe we will request her after her dates are done. So that's where we are. In terms of candidate support, I still request you that if any one of you would like to join in and give your support in any of the areas, just go over there, talk to the campaign manager and say that I can reach out to your constituency between this and this date, and perhaps they would be more than happy to have you as your partner, as their partner over there. Funding is still a little constraint with us, but on the same note, I would like to say positively that a lot of candidates are being supported by our teams in India as well as abroad. They are directly supporting through our sites. and I will request Pran that somewhere in this call also to publish the link again for people if they want to support individual candidates. So beyond that, I would like to, if there are some questions, then let us go through them, because otherwise it will be a lot of repetition.
Right, sure. Thank you, Pankaj. So just for the benefit of the other two candidates on our panel today, Medha and Kiran, Pankaj has to leave for another commitment, so I'm quickly going to ask him a few of the questions that have come in for him. Pankaj, so the one question is, there are reports about dummy candidate against Ashutosh in Chandni Chowk. Are we doing anything about that?
Dummy candidates are some things which happen in all the constituencies, though there are very strict laws against that, but they need to be notified to the election commissioner much well in advance, and perhaps at least in Mayank Gandhi's case we are trying to do that. Mayank has a case where he called me yesterday and said that there seems to be a dummy candidate in his constituency for another candidate, and so we are going to take some action. Mayank is thinking about it, but if we do not take action in right time, then perhaps we would lose the plot. So this is for the candidates also, just in case there are few on this call. Please check the complete list of candidates on your on the list of candidates, and see if you feel that any of them is going to harm you just because it is a dummy candidate for anyone, and we will take some action.
The other question that has come up is about Akhtar Ansari. He says, can you please clarify that Aam Aadmi Party has not sought his support to fight the elections for in Varanasi for Arvind Kejriwal?
Yeah, I can do that with perfect conviction that we have not sought his help. But if someone comes and says that I want to help, then we either keep quiet or we just let that support come. But we have not asked for any help per se. There has been numerous requests, I know that, but we have not approached to Mukhtarji in any way.
Okay. That question was, both those last two questions was from Akhilesh Meena from Dubai. The next question is from Anurag Agarwal from Gwalior. His question is, will the Aam Aadmi Party join with any other political party to stop Narendra Modi?
A tough question. At this point, we have not taken any decisions on that, and we would not. For us, corruption as well as communalism is equal. They are equal in terms of issues before us. So whether we would support any party to do anything, we don't know yet. And I would not like to answer this question right now.
Right. Another question has come up. This is regarding the booth management. You had given us, in your last presentation, you had given us an overview of booth management and how people can get involved. Was that successful? And for the next round, how are we going about getting more people to volunteer for booth management is a question that's coming.
It seems that a lot of people have gone through that training. This is what I have been told and I'm understanding. And in Delhi, we were able to do a pretty good booth management. In Haryana also, we were pretty much on the target. I won't say that we were able to achieve 100% coverage in terms of the booths, but we were able to do a lot. Plus, people did the right things. They were able to sign the forms, they were able to go to the booth, understand what is the process. So I would say that yes, we have done pretty much what we required to do, at least in in the third phase. Now in the coming phases, where 17th is the date, perhaps if required, we will have one more call. If required, Pran can decide on that. And but on the same note, the training which is available now is pretty complete. I went through it myself again just to see that if I needed to add something over there, but it seemed it was pretty complete. And as I said earlier, in case you are not getting any work, best is to reach out to the campaign manager or the candidate and say that I can take care of this particular booth, take the ownership of that booth, and get all the necessary paperwork done for the day, right, for that particular day.
Actually, on the issue of booth management, I just wanted to mention that we had an edited portion talking just about booth management from Pankaj's last hangout, which was sent out as an email, along with another training video on booth management. So that email went out to everyone on the Aam Aadmi Party list. So if you've not received it, then we can find that information and send it out to you. So that's something that's always going to be available. Another question, Pankaj, for you. This is from Subhash Yadav, and this is a question about goal. What is the goal of the Aam Aadmi Party for election 2014? I think he's referring to the number of seats. Do you have a goal in mind? Is the question.
Vikas, yes.
Yeah.
Was it Vikas?
Yeah.
Because there are multiple goals for us in this particular election. As you know that this is the first election we are going through in the Loksabha. So we were in a bind even initially that how much seats or how many seats or where all we should be fighting so as to have a perfect and a pretty good results. After a lot of discussions, we reached to a conclusion that we may want to fight wherever we want. We get a good candidate, a strong candidate, or wherever we have our volunteers who would like to participate in the full strength. It would help us in two ways. One, that definitely if we get good candidates, strong candidates, and it will give them a chance to fight the elections and win also if possible. Secondly, in a lot of places we do not have any strength at this point in the country. These elections would give us that chance to build our organizations and and give us a chance to understand that what kind of support we have from the public or from the citizens of that area, what should be our future strategy. That can be made depending on what kind of support we got. And thirdly, we all believe that this election will throw up a lot of leaders. We are also fighting assembly elections in some of the states. So as far as I understand, combined together Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, we expect that at least 200 to 250 good leaders will come up in this whole process. Like we always say, as a manthan, जैसे एक समुद्र का मंथन होता है, वैसे ये पूरा वही हमारा चर्निंग होगा और इस चर्निंग में से बहुत सारे लीडर्स निकल कर आएंगे. And as I told you last time also, that this will give us a chance to give them more ownership, more responsibilities, and bring them in as the pilots of this whole project, which we call Aam Aadmi Party.
Right. The other question. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Pankaj, sorry to cut you short on that. There was another question that has come up on the polling booths. The actual polling booths that were held, elections were held recently. There were some cases with the voting machines not working properly. In one case, somewhere in Ernakulam, there was a report about the button for the Aam Aadmi Party not working at all. So, are we doing anything about such things? I mean, how do we handle those things? Is a question.
These are individual cases. Very difficult to do anything on them centrally, and these can happen for any party anywhere. But on the same note, I would like to say, if there is any such cases or incidences, it needs to be reported to the presiding officer at that location. That is the key. I or anyone else would not be able to do much on these cases because there are thousands and thousands of machines which are being used on any particular day. So the best thing is that if anything happens, booth volunteer at that point needs to take immediate action. They need to report it to the presiding officer, and it is presiding officer's job to stop the voting at that point and ensure that the processes are taken to change the voting machine, get it rechecked by all the booth volunteers sitting inside the room, and then restart the voting. In such cases, what happens is that the votes which have been polled till that point goes into another machine, and the votes which are polled after that incident are recorded into another machine. So this is especially the task of our booth volunteers to take action at that point. And in case a presiding officer does not take any action even after the case is reported to him, then we need to file a written complaint to the chief election officer or the returning officer of that area.
Okay. All right, Pankaj, there's another question. This is from Vikas Diman from Buffalo, New York. His question is, why is internal Lokpal being referred to for decisions related to discipline? So he's saying basically that, we have trustworthy people and eminent people like Admiral Ramdas being in our Lokpal, but it feels like we're not using them enough to deal with our internal cases of discipline. So he's specifically referring to issues like Somnath Bharati, Vinod Binni, and Shazia Ilmi, have they been referred to the internal Lokpal is the question.
This is dependent on multiple issues. One, that whether the availability of Lokpal was available at that point or not. How fast we needed to take action. Disciplinary committee is actually a valid way of dealing with these issues. And in our constitution also we have written that disciplinary committees are the valid way. In case disciplinary committee feels that this action needs to be taken by Lokpal, they can also refer it to the Lokpal. So this is to say that disciplinary action committee is one step before the Lokpal, and if disciplinary action committee can take action and decisions faster, we go to them. So this is I won't say that we are using Lokpal wherever required, but we do not want to overburden them with every case.
Okay, the next question is this is from Vinita Bhattacharya from San Diego. This is a question about our media strategy. It says, I'm a very big supporter of AAP, but sometimes I feel that its members tend to go overboard. Will it not be a better strategy to temper the language while interacting with the media?
A good suggestion, and I accept it. I have personally seen that it happens at times, but perhaps they get emotionally charged when that happens. I will convey your message to the right team, media team, which has the responsibility to direct all the speakers and tell them about it. I will definitely pass it on. And thanks a lot for your suggestion.
Another one similar suggestion has come from Raj Singla in Canada. His question is, he says, there's been a complete media blackout. We've been receiving, a hurricane of support in Punjab, but none of it is being reported. And so his request is, can you please have a good cameraman from our team follow Arvind ji and give us some good, video feeds from the ground, because it will make a huge difference, is his question.
Okay. I think that cameraman always follows Arvind. So we have our personal cameraman who normally always follows Arvind, and we have all the feeds. It may take some time to be put onto the net, but I will find out that whether, because I am outside Delhi, I'm not in touch with them at this point, but I will definitely find out today and see that what can be done about it.
Okay. So Pankaj, in the interest of time, I'm going to switch to the other two candidates. You can, if you have to leave, you can leave. Otherwise, if you want to stay for a little bit and leave also is fine.
No, I will just listen to a few more questions from others.
Okay.
Then
so Medha ji,
I'll just leave it between without saying.
Okay. Yeah. So Medha ji, if you can unmute your audio, then we can hear you. Medha ji, you need to unmute your audio. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me, Medha ji?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I'm glad you're able to join us. So as a start, if you could just tell us about how your campaign is going, what your experience has been so far, that would be great. Be a good start.
It's good. It's a good and new experience. And both the Aam Aadmi Party is our cadre, and the people from various people's movements across the country are here, and they are campaigning in different places. Like there are school children from Salsabil School in Kerala, and the anti-Coca-Cola struggle leader Velodi from Rajasthan, Aruna Roy's organizations, main activist Shankar Kamayani from Bihar, Uttaranchal team, etc. But it is very clear that we have to reach out to 20 lakh people in my constituency. And for that matter, going beyond caste, creed, religion, and class differences, reaching out to women, and not just giving a long list of the work that we have done over last 40 years, but our main positions on the main issues, and a vision with an appeal to vote to the maximum and vote to Aam Aadmi Party and myself without saying so as an individual. Indirectly, I appeal to them to vote for us if they believe in us and if they want to change politics and they approve our agenda and vision.
So, and are you seeing positive signs from these campaigns?
Oh yes, I think beyond the the traditional divisions, we are reaching out, and I must tell you that people from various parties and party organizations are coming forward. Some say that we are for the alternatives in politics. Some say we may or may not support the party, but we support you. And some are just disgusted with their own leaders who have not delivered, and hence they feel embarrassed when they have committed to their voters, but they could not make their leaders keep the commitments. So I think Aam Aadmi Party has the new voters, the young voters, who have a vision of India, not just those who get mesmerized with the large hoardings or the long speeches of their great leaders. So I think Narendra Modi's BJP and Congress NCP is getting duly exposed, and that is through the people's own assessment of them, people's own investigation on their claims and their confidence.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Medhaji. I'm going to quickly switch to Kiran and come back to you. We have lots of questions that are coming in, both from YouTube and people have submitted questions as well. So just give me a couple of minutes. Let me switch to Kiran and then I'll come back to you again with questions. So you can mute your audio line.
Oh my God. No.
Kiran, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kiran, for joining us. Kiran is the Aam Aadmi candidate from Kurnool. So welcome, Kiran, to the Google Hangout today. And I want to start off by, requesting you to give us a brief background about your campaign, how it's going, how you made the transition from being a social activist to, becoming a Aam Aadmi Party candidate for the parliamentary election. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining and thanks for arranging this Google Hangout. Since 1995, I have been involved in working on various social issues. Even while I was in the US, I finished my BTech from IIT Madras and then went to the US for higher studies. Then I got involved in Association for India's Development, a voluntary movement, which built solidarity for various social causes in India. I had the fortune of meeting Medhaji for the first time in 1997. Since then, also been involved with a lot of people's movements, in support of various causes. And after returning back to India about 6 years ago, I've been focusing more on farmers' issues, in making agriculture sustainable, in changing the policies of the government more into in favor of the farming community and small farmers and marginal farmers. But after interacting with various parties and leaders, it was clear that while we get some successes in terms of changing the way that the government functions or changing the policies, but it is only wherever it intersects with the self-interest of those particular political leaders or parties. However, we do need leaders who are really sincerely committed to people's issues and causes. And there are very few of them in the current, political setup, and that's the reason why, only very superficial measures are taken to address any of the development issues, any of the social justice issues. Therefore, there is really a need to flood the whole system with a whole new set of political leaders who come from the grassroots background and who are ready to really sincerely invest their time and effort into the people's causes. And I think that is what Aam Aadmi Party is doing, which is a really great experience. And I think putting up 450 candidates for Loksabha within about a year of formation is something which is really historic. And people like me who didn't imagine that we'll be contesting elections, even 6 months ago, that I will be contesting personally in an election. We are doing it now because, the possibility has opened up. And it does give a lot of opportunity to really, interact with people in a political sense, which, in the sense that, people can really draw a contrast between the so-called leaders, between whom they are forced to choose during election time currently, and then after elections they have to go to them and make various requests to do some small thing or the other, and basically be at their mercy. Whereas now they can actually choose leaders who can really work with them on the grassroots level. So in terms of the campaigning in Kurnool, I mean in Andhra Pradesh, actually the political situation is so scrambled and confused because of the bifurcation and because of the failure of various parties to actually involve people in the in the larger issues and debates and so on, that people are really disgusted with the current set of politicians. But the thing is, how do we channel that that disgust which is there with politicians, that they have failed, into an alternative? I think that is a challenge, and we have very short time to actually do that because of all the political confusions here. But it is a very heartening support that we are getting. After launching our campaign here, we are going into stadiums, morning walkers, bazaars, and interacting with so many people. Almost 60 to 70% of the people that we are talking to are reacting very favorably. They're saying that they will vote for Aam Aadmi Party, and they're very glad that Aam Aadmi Party candidates are standing in all mohallas, cutting across sections basically. And this is a town with about 30% Muslim population and about 20% Christian population. So the issues of minorities not getting heard in the mainstream politics is also a big issue here. So on all those things, we are actually getting a good connect with the people. And in fact, one Muslim lady with whom we had just talked, because we stopped to drink some coconut water, and she had also stopped, and we gave a pamphlet to her and her son. She went back and called back within half an hour and spoke to us for 10 minutes, saying that she and her group of about 60 friends, they are really puzzled about which candidate to vote for, because all of the mainstream parties are putting up really bad candidates. So they want to have a meeting, with the Aam Aadmi Party and decide how they can actually support us. So this is the kind of response that we are getting from just people on the streets. So we are basically trying to multiply our volunteer force as much as possible to actually be able to reach out to everybody. And even those people who are more, from the educated, intellectual class, they have some questions like, whose vote share will Aam Aadmi Party eat into, if it gets votes? And would we rather not have somebody like an efficient administrator like Chandrababu Naidu? And why should Aam Aadmi Party eat into the vote share and so on? But after just 5 or 10 minutes of conversation, whether it's really a choice, between, let us say, Telugu Desam and Congress and YSRCP, because it's the same leaders who are going from one party to another party to another party. So TDP, when it criticizes Jagan's party, saying that it is a party built on corruption, they are not able to explain how so many leaders who are corrupt are exist in their party, as well as they are now, just before elections, they are migrating from other parties into TDP, and TDP is welcoming them with open arms and giving them tickets. So this whole thing is very clear that it's the same set of families which are controlling the politics in each district, and they are jumping from one party to another party. So I think this is something that we are exposing, and we are able to get a good connect. So I am hoping that we will get a good response from people on the voting day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Kiran. So I'm going to switch back to Medhaji. Medhaji, if you could just unmute your phone, the phone line, I'll ask you the next question. This is coming from YouTube. And this is from Anjali. Anjali's question is regarding jobs and industry. Medhaji, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So the question is about jobs, and she says you have to create industry and plants. How can you get land for a plant when no one is willing to give away their lands, and no one is ever happy to be compensated when they give up their land? So how do we find a balance? Because we need industry, at the same time we need people to give up their land so we can build industry. So how do you find the right balance is her question.
One thing is that not all industries need land and extra land other than the homes and the village land, because these can be home industries and village industries, and these are extensively employment generating industries, and those should be promoted as per our vision and our priorities. Another thing is there is enough of wasteland in India, and all of the wasteland is not cultivable, not even available and usable for plantation. So there can be the industrial plants on that land and not the any vegetative growth. It is therefore necessary that that land should be first used. For example, in Maharashtra, there is at least 80,000 acres of land in this state in India, which was already acquired and not used. And that is by the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation. This is the RTI response that we received. And there is similarly many industrial complexes which were planned, where even some factories were set up, but those are now closed down due to the wrong industrial and economic policies of the rulers. So we give priority to this land and use that land first. Why the industrialists generally don't approve that land, as the Tatas did not want the land which was low-lying, uncultivable on one side of Durgapur Express Highway, because they want the best of the location. They are not ready to go as far as a village countryside, where they would have to spend more money on infrastructure. So this is what we should question, because they are using the public infrastructure. The highways, flyovers are necessary infrastructure for the people of India. But if the industries plan their ways and plant themselves on the lands next to all highways and all flyovers at the cost of all the people and their habitats and their own industrial operations, and mind you, even agriculture is a kind of industry, because there is input, throughput and output, and that cannot be ignored, that needs to be respected. And even in the urban areas, wherever there are small units, the so-called slums are the guilds of services, where the people are engaged in various occupations and vocations, without whom and without which service the city cannot be built, the city cannot be run, the city cannot be cleaned. And hence even those needs to be understood as employment generating occupations, not just the big industries which in a way lead to jobless growth, as even the Reserve Bank of India is saying. So we want industrialization, but not at the cost of agriculture, unless it is the last resort. And wherever we have to or we propose industry, it has to go through the appropriate, not only rule of law, but the planning democratic process at the community level. That is Aam Aadmi Party's position. That has been the movement's position. That was what Gandhiji said. That was what Ambedkar promoted. Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar led the battle for the Dalits' right to the local resources through the Mahad tank, the Chaudhar tank as it was known in Marathi. So even Marx was for ownership of means of production. So the means of production, the sources of life support in the village community or anywhere can be utilized for any other diverting purpose, but only with the consent of the community, and that is Swaraj, and that is the Lok Raj. And hence it is necessary that we have industrialization, but very selectively, going through the proposal. As far as the acquisition is concerned, the forcible acquisition was the British legacy. Unfortunately, it is still on, in spite of the fact that through a number of struggles across the country, we got this act changed. But the amendment is not perfect. The amendment takes into consideration the fact that consent is needed for any land acquisition for the private purpose, but not for the government projects. And there are at least 100 laws across the country, the state and the central laws included, but they are covering only 3 of the central acts as in the schedule of the new act. So the acquisition remains to be forcible under all other acts, whether the state acts or the central acts till date. So this is cheating, this is betrayal. and hence we want the forcible acquisition to be stopped because it is undemocratic, it is unconstitutional, and it is unjust and unjustifiable. That is our position. We are not against industrialization. And of course, if any industry or industrialist is absolutely corrupt, and corruption can be of both monetary resources and natural resources. When you use but you waste water, when you deplete resources at the cost of public life, livelihood, and also public exchequer, and then you manipulate that to gain vulgar profits, that is crony capitalism. And then that we of course would challenge anyone who is for life, for livelihood, and for nature, the natural bounty, will of course question this. That is what we are doing in Narmada, that is what we are doing in POSCO, that is what we are doing in certain projects, but not all projects we are questioning. So I think we have that right and a duty and a responsibility under the Constitution of India to follow the framework of values, rights, and directive principles for equity, justice, and that is what will decide what kind of industry, where, what kind of industrialization, only the big corporate industrialization, or starting with the small industries, units in the villages and homestays. And so I think the rehabilitation is another issue. Rehabilitation is not just giving cash compensation, that was British legacy. Rehabilitation means social and economic alternative to be provided so that the life of those who are compelled to sacrifice, but there should be no compulsion according to our position, but those who willingly sacrifice also should get alternative livelihood and a better standard of living. That is an acceptable international principle, but that does not happen because there is corruption. Even in rehabilitation, up to 1,000 crores and more, as in Narmada, and everywhere it is the same. So we take a very, very reasonable position to match the various factors, including acquisition, which is not forcible, then it will be land investment by the farmers. It will not be acquisition. It will not be compulsory acquisition. So I think let us change the land use pattern when necessary, but voluntarily and democratically.
Thank you so much for that very passionate articulation, Medhaji. I'm going to come back to you now after I have a quick question for Kiran. So let me switch to Kiran. Kiran, can you hear me now? You need to unmute your phone. And Medhaji, if you can mute your line, that will be great. So this is a question from Srikanth from Los Angeles for you, Kiran. His question is, can you explain the manifesto released for farmers in Andhra Pradesh? Because farmers' research has been a major issue in Andhra, and you have done some groundwork on that. So if you have any comments on that, any sort of manifesto, anything that you worked on for farmers in Andhra, that would be great. If you can talk about that.
Yeah, sure. In AP, we released a separate farmers manifesto, and we were the only party to do so, and it was very well appreciated, both by the public, in the media, and in the rural areas. What we are saying is, farmer suicides, Andhra Pradesh is like number 2 in the country after Maharashtra. That's basically because the underlying agrarian crisis which is there, which has gripped the agriculture in the state, has not been addressed. When Chandrababu Naidu government was there, the Telugu Desam government, he had basically at some point said that agriculture itself is a waste. And then the next Congress government came saying that they are actually a farmers government. Farmers rule is what they said. But under both governments, the same kind of a crisis in agriculture is continuing. So we are basically saying that the underlying problems need to be addressed directly rather than just one or two steps, which again, benefit only a few of them. So one of the things that we are saying is that the farmers' incomes need to be made a central issue. And while the pay scales in the organized sector are going up enormously, and both in the government and non-government in the private sector, we are saying that the minimum level of incomes for farmers need to be assured, and there should be a farmers' income commission. In fact, we are making it a slogan that before 7th pay commission, you need to have a farmers' income commission, because the government in a great hurry, 3 years in advance, has actually announced the 7th pay commission. for the government employees before the elections. And second thing that we are saying is that we need to really protect the interests of small and marginal farmers and not push them out of agriculture, especially the tenant farmers and the women farmers. So we've proposed very specific things for how to give more rights and benefits to both women farmers and tenant farmers. And the third thing that we are saying is that land issues need to be handled very urgently. There needs to be, like, there's a lot of there's a lot of unfinished work of land reforms and distribution of land to the poor, which needs to be taken up. And secondly, even the way that the land records are maintained or not surveyed, there should be a comprehensive resurvey of all the land, so that the rights over the land are given to the real cultivators, and that is what will really change the situation in the in the rural areas. Because otherwise, right now, the people who are really cultivating the land are really at the mercy of the government officials who do all kinds of manipulations to actually keep them out of their rights. And the fourth thing that we are saying is that ecologically sustainable agriculture is the need of the hour, and there needs to be a massive promotion of ecologically sustainable agriculture and an opposition to technologies like genetically modified food crops, which cause a lot of ecological damage, as well as they play into the hands of the corporate in agriculture. So the other theme that we are saying very strongly is that we are opposed to corporatization of agriculture, that small farmer livelihood should be the focus of the agriculture policy, and turning over land in large chunks to corporates, or bringing in corporates through contract farming or other methods to the detriment of the farmers. I mean, we are not saying that companies should not be involved at some part of the value chain after production happens, but what we are saying is that if the entire value chain, from the production to primary processing to marketing, is actually done in the hands of a few corporations, that will basically be the end of agriculture as we know it in India, and it will be the American style of agriculture, where about 1% or less than 1% of the people are dependent on agriculture. So these are the things that we are saying in our Farmers Manifesto, and they are very well appreciated.
Thank you for that, Kiran. Before I come back to Medha ji, I want to just read out a comment that came from Amit on YouTube. This is for the volunteers who make this Google Hangout possible. He said, "Never imagine that someday leaders and candidates of an Indian political party will voice their ideas and views on a new communication channel and answer questions directly from the people. Amazing. You guys have done a wonderful job. Jai ho aap. Jai ho all workers, supporters of AAP. Positive change is just around the corner." Thank you so much for that. On behalf of all the volunteers, I want to thank Amit for that comment. So let me come back to Medha ji. There are a couple of questions that I just have for you. One is, firstly, you must unmute your phone line, so we can hear you. Okay, that's good. So the question is about slums. In your last response, you mentioned about how the people in the slums are an integral part of Bombay, and they do a lot of work and provide a lot of services. So his question is there a possibility that we could at least control the growth of these slums, and what can we do to achieve that? And the other question is also related to you, where he says, if AAP candidates like you are unable to win the election, will you still continue with AAP? So there's two unrelated questions, but from two different people. So go ahead.
Can I just add to what Kiran had said on the farmers' suicides?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that because the agriculture has changed from consumption orientation to the market oriented agriculture, the small farmers and especially the rain-fed farmers are compelled to commit suicides, because the markets are not manageable by these small investors and the small owners of the natural resources and the human resources, which is what that category of farmers is. And hence this whole marketization of the agriculture is one more, the main reason, and the market fails, or the seeds like the BT cotton fail, and then the farmers are to suicide. And on the other hand, within the committee-based kind of decision-making process of the Congress and the NDA both, They always form number of committees and commissions, but they will implement those because there is no sensitivity towards farmer suicides on one hand, or the farming crisis, agriculture crisis on the one hand, and on the other hand there is no political will. And hence the false promises to farmers in this election should not be believed in. That is what is to be our appeal to the farmers. All those who have farmers in their families or in their communities must inform them well in advance how the false promises are made and why the newer market inputs, whether of the genetically modified foods or others, bring them under the controls of the market rather than being the self-reliant and self-dependent. As far as slums are concerned, let everyone know that 72% of the Mumbai's population lives in slums, horizontal slums, and some are vertical slums. But we are not for the growth of slums, not at all. We are for the housing rights, the right to shelter, which is what is the constitutional right as a part of the right to life under Article 21, and which is what is the internationally recognized right under the various United Nations covenants and conventions. And hence, for granting that right, what we want to happen is give the affordable housing. We have already submitted as movements a plan for 1 crore people's housing in Mumbai itself, and that is possible for every city and a mega city and a metropolis. That is possible if you have various categories of housing so that people can afford. And this kind of slum proliferation is because of 2-3 main reasons. One is migration. Now, in order to stop migration, which we are very much for, we cannot use the Raj Thakreism. We cannot resort to regionalism, which divides people, which attacks the people who come to cities and contribute, as in Mumbai. And they are not only the interstate migrants, they are also increasing number of intrastate migrants. There is an act in this country, that is India, the Interstate Migrant Workmen's Act, under which we fought a battle in the Gujarat High Court and we won the battle. I had written that report extensively with the other senior colleagues like the advocate Mahesh Bhatt and others, and we know that that committee report brings out the kind of exploitation of the interstate migrants as against the non-implementation of that act, and that continues even today. There is to be a record of the interstate migrant employers, but there is no record. The Labour Commissioner in Mumbai had told us that there are only 3 contractors who employ interstate migrants. Now this is ridiculous, and growing number of migrants are intrastate migrants. Why has this situation been created, and how to address this situation? There is a need to decentralize development planning in the country, to reach out to the nook and corner, but not as monetary investors encroaching upon the land and natural resource investors. That reaching out should be taking in the form of inclusive progress and development with justice. So we would appeal to everyone's conscience to find out what is the status of migration from the economic surveys of India, and our solution is to have the minimum development works and projects in every ward in the city, but also in every rural hinterland, and then that migration will be curtailed. And in order to do that, the people should be given the power and authority to plan their development, so that they would say that let us have these industries on the basis of the raw material. This is the raw material available here. So the kind of new imperialism, as we were sending the raw material outside to the Commonwealth controller, and then that was considered as their wealth, and we would get the the Pakka products, and that was the source of exploitation during the British legacy. We need to change that and not have it in the new form. Another thing is, after stopping or minimizing migration also, you will get the migrants in the city. The employers have to have the due responsibility to give them housing, to give them water, to give them medical treatment, and that is all. And also krishi, that is all in the Interstate Migrant Workmen's Act. All that we are saying is implement those, but the state is not for implementation. We want also a new act for the intrastate migrants, because that is the reality today. So we want to get rid of slums, but that cannot be through bulldozers, because your domestic servant, the construction worker that built your house, your driver who drives you to the office, your parking place monitors, the youngsters who are serving you tea, who are cleaning your toilets and your societies, cooperative societies, your buildings, all of them are in the slums. You may be buying vegetables on the street, they are the hawkers, they are in the slums. Who is not in the slums? Those who are parasitic existence are not in the slums. I must say, sorry to say this, but if you take care of this unprotected class of workers, if you give them the due price for their labor, due value for their labor, then the situation will change. And if you do not have the land grabbing market, which escalates the prices for the land and houses, then they will not be in the slum. And if the public authorities take the responsibility to provide these kinds of affordable housing through public-public partnership between the government on one hand and the people on the other, why can't the construction workers in the poor localities, but who are rich in their labor and skills, who build others' houses, why can't they build their own houses? They all are ready. They're just waiting for a positive, democratic, creative response, and that is the solution we have today with the Aam Aadmi Party, and all the people's movement support this, who are for urban poor, because urban poor are not ants and insects. They are the contributors, they are the skilled workers, and they make yours and my life easier and livable. That is what Einstein had once said.
Wonderful. That's excellent, Medhaji. I think this is one of those rare occasions where we have seen someone passionately, express all these views, which most of us are not even aware of. So, which is fabulous. And thank you for doing that. And I just want to remind you about another question that I had also posted with regard to what. So let me come back to that. Before that, I want to recognize a few people who have sent in donations. I'll quickly call out a few names, and then I'll come back to you so you can address that question. I want to thank Ashish Bhatia, Shailendra Kumar, Manoj Kumar Nayak, Shreyansh Verma, Ajit Pandey, Narel Dattatreya Nana, Anima Bose, Mohanlal Mahanta, Prabhu, and G. N. Kishore Kumar Rao. These are, I just picked up the top 10 names that came in, last 10 donations that came in. I want to thank all of them for that. So let me come back to you, Medha, if you could quickly answer that question, then I can switch back to Kiran. Go ahead.
I didn't want to avoid that question at all, because I know that once chosen a political vehicle, I have always stuck to that. Whether it was Narmada Bachao Andolan, National Alliance of People's Movements, with Kiran Vissa type of activists also joining us from time to time, the well-studied approach that Kiran has, the contribution that the Kiran has made, and the inspiration that these kinds of youngsters who have come back after their foreign studies and this thing to serve this country and to be with this people of this country, we welcome them and we take the inspiration from them. I think all of those were the movement level vehicles, and we see Aam Aadmi Party also as a new kind of movement to change politics. And whenever we begin in a small and humble way, but then we go all through to its manzil. But that also gives me the right to question my party, because it is transparent, it is accountable, it is open. And as long as it is so, I will be with the party, and I will also contribute to the party's rebuilding and party's governance, not only within the party, but also outside the party, with the countrymen, beyond caste, class, gender differences, and also the class differences.
Thank you so much.
And I will also continue with the movements. Let me tell you that. I will also continue with the movements, because we have not mortgaged the movements. When we are entering the alternative politics, we see it as railway track. Unless you have the two rail lines, you cannot have the train go on towards its destination. So one is the movement path and one is the political path, which is, both are political, but this is electoral political, and hence struggle within and struggle outside, both is important and necessary.
Okay. Thank you, Medhaji. If you could just mute your phone line, I'll go to Kiran. Kiran, this is a question that's come from Nitish Goenka and from IIT Kharagpur. His question is about the farmers' issues that you talked about. He said, as you know that farmers' issues are rarely covered by mainstream media, and unless it is made a national issue, substantive change is very difficult. I wanted to know, what is your vision for increasing public discourse towards farmers' issues? I think it's an excellent question, because it's often doesn't make the newspaper headlines. We just hear sporadically that there is, farmer suicide. So how can you make it a mainstream topic is his question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually just typing out answer also to that question. So, as a social activists, working with movements and civil society groups, we actually built a national and stable platforms to precisely address this issue of actually bringing agriculture and farmers issues, small marginal farmers, into the public discourse. And to a certain extent, we succeeded because in Andhra Pradesh, for example, the farmer suicides issue was completely neglected and driven under the carpet, essentially, because the government was basically saying that the farmer suicides had come down from 2,000 per year to like 100 per year. So we exposed that lie, and then that made really front page headlines in all the local newspapers. And so farmer suicides issue has become a very key thing in the public discourse here in the last couple of years. So that kind of impact we are able to make by actually bringing these issues into the media and into the public. But I think that Aam Aadmi Party can actually take it to the next level, because Aam Aadmi Party has created a space where any of the neglected issues in the public discourse, where all the parties are complicit. See, all parties are happy if the agriculture crisis is not really highlighted in the public, because they know that even if they come into power, actually they are not going to do much about it, right? So Aam Aadmi Party has a crucial role in bringing those kind of neglected issues into the public discourse, and then force the other parties also to take a stand. Just like the Gujarat development model, all the parties were just silent on it, just saying that Gujarat development model is the way to go for the country. That argument was never taken head on until AAP stepped in and Arvind and others made the trip to Gujarat and so on. So that kind of space, I'm hoping that Aam Aadmi Party will take up even on the farmers' issues and rural issues. That's one thing. And the other thing I want to say is that actually the real crucial work begins after the elections. See, in these elections, mad, hectic thing, we are striving for media space to raise various issues, but it may or may not be possible to make it an election issue. But after elections is where the crucial work begins. I really hope that Aam Aadmi Party, on behalf of Aam Aadmi Party, we can actually build a good farmers union, which really comprises of small farmers across the country, and that can become a national platform to voice the farmers' issues. And once Aam Aadmi Party takes it up in a big way, I'm sure that all the other political parties also will be forced to do so. So this is what I think we should be doing.
Okay, another quick question for you, Kiran. This has come up from Rakesh. The question is about, apart from agriculture, what other areas of focus do you have in mind for Kurnool? And he also specifically referring to employment generation, both rural and urban.
That's right. So that is one of the things that we are, talking about quite a lot here. We are saying that our focus is on youth, and the disenchantment among the youth also stems from the fact that while educational institutions have proliferated, and especially private institutions, and actually youngsters are paying lakhs and lakhs of rupees to get some degree or the other, but the employment opportunities after that and livelihood opportunities have become really scarce. So we are basically saying 3 or 4 things. One is that we will establish very good vocational education centers in Kurnool district and also in other parts of AP. so that the transition from education and a degree to actually good livelihood opportunity, which is sustainable, which is diverse. Not that everybody is being trained only to get into an office and sit in front of a table and work. That's first thing. Second thing is the kind of small industries which are more job generating should be created, and that is where again this whole issue of crony capitalism that we talk about, it's not limited to just Ambani's or like Adani's, the really big ones. Even in a town like Kurnool, for example, there are political leaders who are just there only to build their business empires. So one of the local politicians, he was in TDP, then he jumped into Congress, now he's jumping into TDP. The only interest is to build their own factories, and those factories are not really employment generating. So if they really focus on the small industry, which doesn't really play into the hands of 2 or 3 major industrialists, but which actually is employment generating, that is what will really benefit the people. And this is something that we are really articulating here in Kurnool. And the third thing is that even the education quality improvement is something that we are talking about, which will, I think, help in better youth getting better jobs and so on.
Okay. Thank you, Kiran. I'm going to come back to Medhaji. Medhaji, there is a question for you.
Just one more thing I wanted to add is that, see, there are other occupations also apart from agriculture, which are locally, which have been employment generating. For example, handlooms is a big sector in Kurnool district, which again has been allowed to really degenerate. So we are talking about actually reviving handloom sector also with sufficient support systems being there from the government. Essentially, what I think everybody has to realize is that any industry or any employment generation activity needs certain amount of incentives and support system from the government. I mean, that is an essential role the government has to play, and it has played that role in the case of IT sector, in the case of any of the big industries. Without that kind of support, actually none of these big industries and the so-called more attractive top industries can actually survive. However, when it comes to the case of handloom or any of the small industry which are or agriculture, agro-based industries and all that, these are just denigrated as we are giving subsidies because these sectors really can't sustain themselves on their own feet and so on. It's actually that question should be reversed and put to the other sectors which are really getting so much of extra support from the government.
Okay, thank you so much, Kiran. I'm going to come back to you, Medhaji, and then I will come back to both of you for closing comments because of the time constraint. We're already up on the hour, so it's time for us to wind up. I know both of you have a day of campaigning ahead of you, so I don't want to hold you back anymore. There's one question for you, Medhaji. This is about, there's a lot of hopes and aspirations riding on AAP, and a lot of young people are hoping that AAP will really do well in this election. But the question that has come up from this gentleman from the UK, Krishna Kumar, his name is, he said, what if we end up with the same situation where the same corrupt people get elected? What are we going to do? I mean, where it's almost like it's a hopeless situation. If something like that were to happen, what would you do, and what would be your comment on that? Can you unmute your phone so that we can hear you, the audio? We can't hear you. Audio. Go ahead.
You see, nothing can be more hopeless than the situation we are already experiencing and we are, bearing with. And hence, only because we have a hope, we are putting steps ahead. And one hope is that of the Jana Lokpal. That act needs to come into force, and that can happen in the parliamentarian and non-parliamentarian kind of politics. In any case, so many acts have come with the movement's inputs. So AAP is also now one more movement, and that will anyway continue to fight for the new acts from inside and from outside. And when we are anyway going to come to power sooner or later, I think we will bring in that Jan Lokpal Act with perfect finalities and with an institution that will be out of the political intervention and control. And another hope is, of course, that we will expose the corrupt politicians, and the right to recall if that electoral reform, which Aam Aadmi Party only has in its manifesto, is pushed, I think the Representation of People's Act 1951 needs to be amended. There are a number of propositions coming from the Election Commission, which also the parliamentarians are not for implementing, but we are for implementing. The Aam Aadmi and Aurat are for implementation, and we will push for that. And the hope is that the people now will be so aware and awakened and motivated and mobilized through Aam Aadmi Party and various civil society groups. Let them be in party or not be in party, but they can certainly join the larger movement as it was anti-corruption movement with Anna Hazare to everyone. And we know that all those who may not be in the electoral politics are just waiting for even that kind of a larger and a larger movement. And through that movement, we will make the people actors themselves. They will go and camp and have satyagrahas in front of the corrupt politicians. They will investigate their properties, which are many times wrongly mentioned. But the Election Commission is not investigating the wrong records of the properties given, just as they never investigated the columns which were not filled by Mr. Narendra Modi. Now, such a blunder takes place only because the people do not question. Now the people have started questioning, and that is the credit going to the young politicians. And we all, the old politicians, but outside electoral politics, support them and have joined them only to create a critical mass in this country that would take the larger masses along with. And we will innovate the newer and newer strategies to killing corruption. We will stop the rationing officers from selling the cheap grains. We will stop the hospitals through our monitoring teams, our watchdogs, from selling the medicines through the back doors. We will stop the corruption by the education mafia, which is leaving millions of children in this country uneducated. We will question the builders who have the thumb impressions of the deceased people after they die, and we will form the interdisciplinary panels to support all the people, the whistleblowers, to those who also, take the RTI as a weapon and use it, and also the uneducated who say we will have the junda in front of the gundas. And that will also be a moment of support from Aam Aadmi Party. We can have a number of such institutions and mechanisms from the grassroots or the mass route to the top level at the national level. And certainly that will work. And we will encourage the people first to take oath, to take pledge that they will not be a party to corruption at any level. And that will bring in magical change, much more than through any act, I must say.
Thank you so much, Medhaji. I just want to end with closing comments from you. One question that always comes up is, how can we help? A lot of people want to know how they can help. People who are watching today, people will watch the recording of this. So if you can end with that, then I can let you go so that I can end with Kiran as well, because I know we are past the planned 1 hour. Go ahead.
Please, I think Kiran will have a number of ideas because he is on the social networking. I'm not asocial, but I'm not using this technology myself. Let me remind them. So please help us with this new technology from wherever you are. Put all the things and views, because we want an in-depth education of the electorate as citizens, as human beings, and not just propaganda for garnering votes. We want them to also know that they will have a right to take from us a real hisab, an account of our work and our expenses during the 5 full years. And I would say that please join us in reaching out to the voters. We can't reach out to individual voter, individual family, individual community. Although through the Padayatras we are covering it, we are walking 7 hours every day. At this age of mine, I feel ashamed but also proud of those who are older than me, walking with me with great enthusiasm. So there is a youthfulness in the campaign. Join us, write articles, because the mainstream media may or may not publish our views and they have every right to even criticize us. But the paid news and the paid hoardings That is the non-level playing field. So please help us in matching the gaps. Do disseminate the information that our friends and colleagues and free volunteers in the media also who have helped us to disseminate to the others. And from your end, our supporters in UK and USA, I think you have a great influence, not only through the money that comes from these countries, but also through the views and opinions that come from these countries. And since we are also for Jai Jagat, we are also for one world. We are for United Nations and united people beyond the nation state boundaries. Please help us to take these views forward. And before elections, if you do that to the maximum, I think that would be the great support. Financial support, the people are already appealing. I'm not very good in that. Please, I leave it to the others to do that. I would only say that create your designs, create your medium, create and choose your idiom, and propagate the same views without any editing, which would go against our views. But please also convey your suggestions, give us your suggestions for the campaigning strategies as well, and I'm sure we will honor those. And join us, those who are in India or are likely to come to India, please come fast. There is very little time left. We can have different categories of people, English speaking, Tamil speaking, Malayali speaking, Gujarati speaking, who are already campaigning. Please do that. And also expose the myths in the promises and claims by persons like Narendra Modi on one hand and the corrupt Congress and NCP on the other. Please help us doing research. Please help us through analysis of economic data. If that comes ready-made, we will certainly use it to the maximum. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Medhaji. I'll let you go with that for the very passionate and educational exchange. We love having you on the show, and we'll see you until next time. And have a great, election campaign, and wish you all the success. Thank you so much. So coming back to you, Kiran, I just wanted to come back to you. Before I end with you, let me just mention this is a question that comes up a lot. If you go to my.amadmiparty.org, at the top you will see a link for candidates. If you click on the link to candidates, you'll see our entire list of candidates, and you can click on any individual candidate that you like. You can see their profile, and you can actually donate for them right there. In addition to that, our candidates have their own web pages as well, which are also mentioned in the YouTube link where you're watching this live broadcast. So let me come back to you, Kiran, with any closing comments that you might have. I also want to congratulate you on a very encouraging comment that came in from one of the viewers. He said, Kiran has a tough challenge going up against being on the same panel with Medhaji, who brings a lot of experience and has phenomenal communication skills, and you've been able to match her despite your relative inexperience in this regard. So that's a comment that someone had posted, so I just wanted to pass it along to you. So congratulations on that, and I'll let you speak.
Yeah, firstly, I just wanted to, also answer the last question which was put to Medhaji, about what will happen if, many of our candidates don't get elected. See, I think we are in this in a long-term, this is a long-term game. It's not something where we should say that if we make a big splash in the 2014 Loksabha elections, then we have won, otherwise we have lost. I think our entry into so many Lok Sabha constituencies across the country and putting up candidates itself is a victory. And like Pankaj was saying, it will throw up 200, 250 very good leaders who are going to be with the party for the next few years at least. So that is a good victory. But to actually even reach that stage, we need to put up a good, make a good impact in these elections. So I think that is where all the support from everybody and really putting all our resources, our, creativity and all into it is really necessary. And if the corrupt leaders do get elected this time, I think we have a very good, chance and a medium to completely corner them. And already I see that things are changing even in a small town like Kurnool, where Aam Aadmi Party, most of the people feel it's like a very distant party. It is, somewhere in Delhi and so on. Still, the fact that we are putting up candidates means that they are really hesitating to put up the really corrupt candidates. So I think that kind of impact is already there. So let us not, lose heart. About whether we'll make a huge splash in these elections, that the Delhi election result should be replicated in the Loksabha and so on. I think this is a great opportunity and a platform that we have created. We should sustain it for the next several years. And as for my closing comments and also how people can support, definitely I think the financial support is very crucial because we are really running short on resources, and the links for donating various candidates has been just mentioned. And secondly, I think the a lot of websites and the newspapers have a scope for citizen journalists. I just saw this morning that rediff.com has put out a call for citizen journalists to particularly cover election related issues. So I think that many of you who have writing skills should just take up some local area where the campaign is going on and really highlight them. I know some friends are already doing it. Like for example, Somu from the US has been writing in Times of India, a citizen's blog, and that is actually very well read. For the last 3-4 months he's been doing it. Like that, every week an article or coming from you. Each person can create actually a weekly space in this thing, and in Economic Times. Somebody is writing and so on. So I think those kind of things are very useful, and really we need people, volunteers on the ground. So I'm not speaking only about Kurnool. If somebody has people that in Kurnool and they can volunteer, just give 2-3 weeks of your time, and we assure you that you will have a really great experience, and which is not possible for the next 5 years at least. So this is something, please convey to your friends and family. Just tell them that if they take 2 weeks off, they might actually be in for something which is a life-changing experience. So this is something that we really want to communicate to everybody, and that's the really crucial thing which is needed. And that's it. I think the research work is also very much required, and analysis of manifestos at the state level, and communicating those, and pointing out the flaws in that, because we really need to hammer the other parties on various issues in order to reach out to the people to show how flawed the current set of parties are. So it is not only just about talking about their corruption, but also talking about their false promises. In Andhra Pradesh, we have actually raised this issue of Telugu Desam Party promising to waive all the farmers' loans, which is completely a false promise, which is impossible, which cannot be done, but they are trying to get a lot of votes through that. So we have filed an election commission complaint, and we are hoping that they will step in to stop this. So many things like that can be done. So I hope that most volunteers will join the campaign in various places, wherever you're connected. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kiran. And since you mentioned the issue of citizen journalism, on the my.amadmiparty.org, if you were to sign in with Facebook, we can enable you to blog on the site, so that your blogs can be seen right on the my.amadmiparty.org blog page, and we can also make it available through Twitter and Facebook and other avenues. So with that, on that note, and a positive note from Kiran about the importance of trying hard and spreading the message and trying to be successful, I want to end today's first Google Hangout. Thank you so much, Kiran, for joining us, and we wish you all the best in your election campaign, and I'm sure many will step in and help out in your campaign after your request at this point. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful...
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just one question, on the YouTube link or something, can we also put in a phone number or email address where people can contact us?
Yes.
Or maybe that's updated.
We can update that, not a problem. If you just send a note with the details that you want updated, we'll certainly add that over there.
Yeah.
All right. And we have another one coming up at 9:30 in the evening today, and 9:30 Indian Standard Time, the next Hangout. So I just wanted to announce that as well. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.